Hi everyone, it's AJ here, and I have a special guest, an expert on loops in Python. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, my name is Kim. I'm currently a fifth-year senior at the University of Madison, Wisconsin. I am studying neurobiology, which is not CS at all, but sometimes you're interested in coding and you just learn for yourself.
Yeah, and with student orgs and stuff, I guess you've been doing a lot of this kind of stuff. So we called it LoopsOHMY because if it weren't for loops, I don't think people would be coding, to be honest, right?
Not efficiently.
Not efficiently. This takes care of a lot of code very quickly, and you'll see why as we proceed. So Kim, we want to cover for loops, while loops, and length because we haven't quite gotten to that in this course. And we're going to have to review conditionals and ranges, although there's other things that will be thrown in as well, like lists, I think I saw, and a couple other things.
Yeah, we're going to take kind of everything that we've kind of covered thus far, kind of mush it together and use loops to help us efficiently code.
Cool. So here's a simple example that you put together, a condition. If today is a weekday, I'm guessing and not a holiday, but let's keep it simple. The outcome is we have school. So we do this naturally, right?
Yeah, theoretically, in the morning when you get up, you're like, what day of the week is it? If it's Monday, I have school. If it's Tuesday, I have school, and you continue down the list. If it's Saturday, oh, I don't have school. The process of doing this is kind of a loop. You get up and you have a condition and you go through and check it. So if you want to go to the next.
Yeah, I was going to say, so
slide.
it's basically a for loop. This is what we're doing in our head. We're saying, is it a weekday? And then if the condition is true, then we say school today. And if it's false, there's no school. And yeah, I can imagine that. I can imagine with lots of things we do. Am I hungry? No. Then I won't eat anything. Am I hungry? Yes, I'll eat more. Right? Okay, thank you. So what is a loop? Do you want to explain what a loop is?
Yes, as it says on the screen, the loop is an execution of a statement or a group of statements. So that would be like a function that you create in Python, and you do it multiple times. This can either be done a set amount of times, so you can go through a loop, let's say 3 times, or it can go on indefinitely. And that's why we have 2 different types of loops. We have the for loop for an X amount of time, and we have a while loop. So while the statement is true or while it's false, it'll continue to go through it until it's otherwise specified.
So with the school example, even though it feels like we're in school for an infinite amount of time, really it's only 18 to 28 years or something along those lines. Okay. Thank you. So that's a loop. So it just keeps going through it over and over again. So is it time for you to show us an example, or do you want to explain the for? So it's like...
Yeah, so we can go through the syntax real quick. Okay. So to call a for statement, you have for, you give it a variable name. So let's say we call it X in a sequence.
Okay. Sure. So the for is, you said it's syntax. So in Python, we're going to type the word for, and then we name whatever we want the variable to be. Often we're using X, I've noticed. In a sequence. Can you explain sequence really quick for me again?
So a sequence is either going to be a string that contains a list of objects, or you can, this is where we're going to review our range, so a range of numbers.
I see.
So kind of a boundary for your variable to exist in.
Okay.
And then afterwards, you're going to write the statements. So the statements are going to be...
some code, right?
Some code. So
print this, or...
if this, else this, or print something.
Yeah, so else is just a part of that. And then more code. So it's no school or there is school, whatever, however you want to set it up. I understand it. So variable, range, or sequence, and then whatever code needs to be executed is the statements.
Yeah, so these are some examples. We have the first one where our variable is num in a range from 10 to 20.
Okay.
In this particular
for loop.
code, for loop, you have your statement is you're going to print off these numbers multiplied by 2. So you're going to take 10 times 2, 20, and you're going to take 11 times 2,
22.
And I'll print all of those to 20 times 2, which is 40.
40, okay.
Otherwise, the other way you can use it is you can create this, which is a string or a list of items.
I see that.
And so for the individual fruit in your fruits, you are going to print them off. And the way we're going to print them off is we'll just say current fruit, and then your fruit, and they'll just go down.
So the result of this second example is we have a list: banana, apple, mango, pineapple, pear, for fruit in the fruits variable. So it'll say current fruit, banana, current fruit, apple, current fruit, mango, all the way through pear. So it's a fruit loop. Okay. So now, should we look at some for loop examples before we move to while loop?
Yeah, so
All
we'll go ahead and go into the clips and we'll try some of these things out. So we'll first do the fruit loops that we just laughed about.
We laughed about it.
So we have our, oh no.
Mistype.
Lots of mistyping here.
So I think I remember this from earlier in this course. You're doing fruits equals, and then you're setting a list. Or,
Yes.
What's the other word for list that we often use? An array, right?
Apple. What other fruits are there? Mango.
The next one's pineapple.
Pineapple.
And pear is the final item in the list.
Okay. So we have our list, and now we're gonna create our for loop. So for fruit in fruits, indent, and we are going to print off the current fruits, which we've done before.
It's a simple print function. It's a nice warm-up loop. It's not that useful because actually we could easily type current fruit banana, current fruit apple all on our own. But imagine, I think where we're going with this is imagine there's hundreds of fruits and there's a little bit more to it. This would be super useful. So let's see it run through that loop. All right, so that's a great review of for loops.
So I printed off all of our fruits for us here. The next thing we're going to talk about is we haven't done this before, but we are going to, instead of print off just the fruits, we're going to count the length of the letters here.
Length of the letters. This is new. I'm excited. So banana, I'll just count myself, is 6 letters, apple's 5, and it will do this for us.
So we are going to comment that line out.
Gotcha.
And we are going to print. We are going to do fruit, comma, and then to do length, it's typed out like this.
L-E-N.
And then it's going to be fruit.
And fruit just being that variable. So each fruit, it'll print out the name of it, the string, banana, and then it will say 6. That's what I'm expecting. Is that correct? Let's run it.
So, let's see.
Hey! I wish I had 5 mangoes. Now that's useful. That was a lot faster than if I had to go out and count them myself. Especially if the list was a lot longer.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about range now, which we did talk about before. And for our range, we typically use it with numbers. So we're going to create a range and call it I this time.
Okay.
And we're going to give it a range of, we could do it, what was our example before? I think it was
10 to 20?
10 to 20.
The double it?
10 and 20.
Okay.
And then we did print.
So for each item in range 10 through 20,
5 times 20.
print that number times 2.
Oh,
right?
Right.
I mean, we could do times 20, but that might be hard to look at.
Okay. So.
Oh, it's that easy. Let's run it, see what happens. So the fruit first, and then, 20, 22, 20. So that's 10 times 2, 11 times 2, 12 times 2, 13, all the way up to 20. Oh, so we can see it. It's just multiplying it by 2, but first listing the number. And it starts at the number...
It starts at 10, but it doesn't include 20, because we've talked about this before when we did math and numbers, but it doesn't count the number in your last range. If you wanted to count that, then you have to add 1 to it.
I'm going to do it. So 21 will go up to 40 now. There we go.
Yep.
All right, is that it for for loops right now? And we want to go to while loops, or do you have even another one?
I do not. All of this is very extra.
Okay. Yeah, I think that gives us an idea. Now, I just want to point out when we talk about statements in our kind of syntax for print, we could do a lot more with this.
Right.
We could do our if,
I do have
else stuff.
So you can actually incorporate more math into this, which we do have an activity prompt for our FizzBuzz activity. So that would incorporate a little more math, and I can go through and show you.
Is that for the for loop, or are we going to save that for while loop?
We're going to do that in a for loop.
Okay.
With a range of numbers.
Okay, let's do that.
So we'll go ahead and we'll edit this. This one we'll need num this time.
Okay, num. Just changing the name of the variable.
And we're still going to do a range. We'll do a small range this time of 2 to 10. So we are going to create an if statement. If num, and we are going to do some division, so we're going to put in our mod 2. So by creating the statement, we're checking to see if it's an even number. Oops.
Okay, so basically, to remind everyone, and for myself, mod means if something's divided by 2 and it's an even number, mod will end up being 0 because there's no remainder. Like 12 divided by 2 is just 6, that's easy.
Right.
But then if it's 13 divided by 2, it would be 6 and some. In this case, it would be 1.
It'll actually return to you what the extra stuff is.
Oh, it'll just say 1. And then we know it's an odd number. Cool. That's some smart thinking there. We'll get to algorithms in a later part of this course. So if the mod is 0, we found an even number, and then show what the even number is. That's cool.
And then...
Are we going to do an else?
We can do an else. We don't have to. We'll look at this.
Yeah, let's see what we got there.
So we have...
It found 2, 4, 6, and 8. And then it just doesn't do anything with 1, 3... Oh, it started at 2, with 3, 5, and 7, and 9.
Because those aren't...
I think that's fine to leave it at. So we're finding all the even numbers within a range. Can we just increase the range to, 80? A big number? So then it just shows how loops can just keep running the same process over and over. So it found all the even numbers between 2 and 79, correct?
Yep.
Awesome. All right, well, let's look at while loops.
Okay. Back into our presentation here.
And you're going to have to help me out, Kim, because I understand for loops because we just went through it. While loops, I feel like it's a little harder, but maybe not. So basically, while a sequence, we talked about sequence already. So while a sequence is happening, keep running this loop until it's not happening anymore. Is that what a while loop is? So, like we did a can you vote earlier in this course. So it's like while you're under 18, so if you're 17, it still says you cannot vote. If you're 16, it still says you cannot vote. Once it says 18, it says you can vote, and it will stop even checking because from that point forward, you can vote.
Well, if you put in a number over 18, it'll still go through the while loop and give you the answer. But essentially, the difference is the while loop will check for a Boolean operation. at all times.
True or false.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so and then you have plenty of examples for that too, so we can get a better handle on it.
Yep.
Before we conclude.
Mm-hmm. So back into Eclipse, we are going to set up account is equal to 0. So it's going to start, your loop is going to start at some number. We're going to say it starts at 0. And then while your count is less than 9. So we did this
clears things up for me.
in a previous lesson where we did the Boolean where it's greater than, less than, greater than, equal to, or equal, which is 2 equal signs.
Yeah.
So we have to use that when we're doing the statement, or not the statement, the bling bling.
Sequence?
The sequence, yeah. And then we're going to tell it what to do, so we're going to print, and we are going to print the count is.
Print the count is.
And then we're going to print count.
So it'll just say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
But we actually have to add in some stuff because right now it just is printing the statement. We have to do, if you wanted to count up, we have to set that up by doing the count.
Oh, I see. It's not moving until you actually make it move.
Mm-hmm. So it's moving after we put in the statement right here. So
Okay.
now it's adding 1.
So say the count, it'll print the count is, okay, wait. So count starts at 0.
Mm-hmm.
While the count is less than 9, do the following. So it's a loop. It's going to go through all this code. So first it's going to print the count is, whatever the number currently is.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's going to add 1 to the count. So the next time it rolls through, it'll be 1 higher than the previous.
Mm-hmm. And then at the end of it,
Cool.
we're going to add 1 more line. So once it finishes,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to print. So once it is greater than 9, we need to, just to see that it actually goes through the loop, we'll
Mhm.
print off a goodbye.
And I can see this print goodbye is not actually a part of the loop. It follows the loop. So it's kind of like while this is happening, this loop is going to happen and happen and happen. And when it's done, it'll go to the next line of code,
Mhm.
which in this case is goodbye.
Yeah. So
All right,
go
let's
ahead
see
and look
that
at it.
work. This will be fun. It counted up to 8 and then said goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
I like it.
And then, so if you were to continue this, you could also add an else statement underneath. So if you were, instead of just ending the loop here, you
Mhm.
could add other things to it, such as when we did the activity with the, when it says hello, or, well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So we created, we can change that and create it to be a while loop
Mm-hmm.
as it's going through, if this, else, that.
Mm-hmm.
And by adding the while to it, it will only have, we can just have it for a small range. So instead of the whole 24 hours, we could do, let's say, from like 8 hours in a day. So
Yes.
like an 8-hour workday, 9 to 4 or something.
Yes, so it could be like a greeting robot that when you see it, if it's
Mhm.
morning time, it always loops and says, hello, Kim, good morning. And then later in the day, it'll say, hello, Kim, good afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
I gotcha. Do we have more for while loop, or was that?
No,
That's it.
That's pretty much it.
Cool. Well, that's not so scary now that you walked us through a whole bunch of examples. So let's just, I'll just review really quick. I'll hit present here. So we covered 4 loops, which is 4, what's that next thing? I want to just look.
A
Variable.
variable.
Mm-hmm.
4
4 variable. Well, we could just go back to the slide. In a sequence,
Mm-hmm.
you can do a statements and you can do conditionals or whatever you want within that. And then for the while loops, it's the same thing except you kind of set up when this loop will end.
Mm-hmm. So if we go back here, we have while and a sequence. And inside your sequence, you're going to typically have some sort of a Boolean. So is that greater than, less than, or equal to
Right.
setup.
And then within the statement of the while, you have to keep growing whatever your integer is so that it reaches a certain point where it will stop. And then let's see what else. We talked about length. We just threw that in as len, and it just tells us the length of a word.
Yeah, so length is a built-in function inside of Python. All you have to do is remember len, and it'll just count for you.
That's very
in a
useful.
string.
And then we reviewed conditionals a little bit, and range was super important for the for loops especially. Well, thanks for spending your time with us today, Kim.
Yay, it was
And
super fun.
we all hope that now you say loops oh my, but it's not oh my I'm scared, it's oh my I'm excited.
Yes, of course.
Bye.
Bye.